I'm going to talk to you about the top trends in procurement that are going to happen throughout 2022. So trend number one is understanding your suppliers, your supply chain through data. Over the last couple of years, what I've witnessed working in a few different places is a scramble of sorts, especially in the early days of COVID, to suddenly be like, where is everything? And what I mean by that is literally the documentation. Like, where are our contracts? Because I'm not gonna lie, some of the places still relied on paper contracts. Which suppliers are a risk to our supply chain, to our product offering, to our operations? That was, I think, the hardest possible question to answer. And I'm not sure a lot of companies have yet answered it, if I'm being perfectly honest. So I think this year we're going to see a rise, and at least I hope we're going to see this, at least from a CPO level down, that having a solid data foundation, we're automating, we're getting real-time data coming in every single day that tells us exactly what's going on with our suppliers, whether that's financial risk, whether that's mergers, acquisitions, whether that's capacity issues, whether that's financing problems, whether that's where they're based, what their suppliers do and who they are and where they're located. There is so much data out there. It takes maybe like a solution like Tilburg. I've watched on from afar over the last couple of years of just watching that company grow and build an incredible proposition unlike any other product out there. And I very much assume that they're just going to integrate with more and more procurement tools, more supply chain tools, and contracts tools over time. And that is where you will get that. You'll just open up your software, all the data will be there whenever you input a new supplier or you engage a supplier. I think that's kind of the way we're going. That's kind of how I see it in my day role going as well. So that's one trend I'm excited for. The second trend, and this is very much a continuation of what's been happening over the last year or so, sustainability and ethical sourcing. That's kind of how I'm labeling it, and it's everything in between and in and around the edges of what that means. One thing that I don't think we see enough of from a supply chain perspective is enough focus on this whenever we're sourcing new products or new services. And that's where I think the shift will start to happen a little bit more so. But where is this shift going to come from? I think that's a key question here. So for me, I think the shift can potentially come from two places. I think it has to come from the top down. So this is my personal view on the matter. I think if businesses, the leaders in that business, don't see this as a priority, how is it ever going to happen? I think that's just an absolute given. And I think a lot of businesses will delude themselves and say, we don't need to get too involved from the top down. You go off and do it. But without that backing, I think it's really going to be difficult. But I do think there is a perfect opportunity for that collective energy, that collective power that will enable businesses from the bottom up to really push the leaders of that business to take these matters very seriously and to start setting up working groups within the business, to start asking questions maybe at town hall meetings or company events, and just figure out, like, are we doing enough for our planet, for our societies, for our cultures? If the answer is no, I think there's going to be a lot more pressure from employees to the business to get this an absolute priority when we're looking for suppliers. We all know that a lot of businesses, a lot of their cost can actually come from the supply chain. The statistics are astronomical, and in some aspects can be 70% of spend is with suppliers. That can be game changing. And then when you think about that, it's game changing for each of those suppliers that gets brought on board, who can hopefully have some positive change within their ecosystem. And that's how we need to start thinking about this. We always talk about supply chains, and chain always feels slightly linear. And I always think it's such an oversimplification of an intricate web of suppliers, of contracts, of risk. And it would be amazing if some solution can kind of just visualize this in some sort of 3D hologram. Maybe in 10 years time, we'll be talking about that. So this might be my favorite topic that's still being discussed every single year, and it will still be a thing that we're talking about this year. That's digital procurement. when are we going to digitalize our procurement processes, systems, methods of storage, engaging with our suppliers? That will still be very much a conversation that procurement teams, procurement leaders are having. Sadly, I think if you're having these conversations, you're so far behind. There's still time to get up to speed and to get this done, but this shouldn't be a conversation point, but it will be. We should be fully embracing digital procurement. We shouldn't be worrying about building out our processes first before we go digital. Build for digital. That's what I'm a big fan of. I don't think taking a manual process and trying to figure out how to slot it in to digital processes, which normally are far more efficient, can automate what you do, can enable you to do things that you have never even dreamed of doing when you're still like emailing, sending notes through Slack, or when you're maybe even showing a document off to one of your colleagues. I'm a big fan of building for digital, having that digital mindset. I think that's a given now. This shouldn't be a trend, it will be. I'm not going to talk about it this time next year. Maybe not the most fun one, but for a lot of procurement practitioners within Europe, and especially within the EU member states or even the UK, we need to wisen up to data protection. There's so much going on in that world that I think I might have to do another session, another video just on that very topic. We need to wisen up, because the consequences of getting data protection wrong, without having the right agreements in place, without understanding what data is passing between different entities, it's going to be catastrophic. The amount that you can be fined, the business reputational damage that you can suffer, it's going to be awful. And I would not want my name associated with a data breach or poor data protection management of personal data. Like, mismanagement of personal data is going to be an absolute killer over the next 10 years. It's going to be something that the courts will absolutely love to get involved with, and rightly so. Like, they certainly should. So wisen up to this throughout 2022. This one might be controversial, but I'm going to stand by this so very much. Okay, hear me out. I think that if you are not a tech savvy procurement practitioner of any sort, then this profession going forwards is not right for you. And I genuinely think this is the case. If you're not tech savvy, you're not going to understand digital procurement and how you can really leverage it without going through the whole consultant route and spend tons of money on something you should already have a very good understanding of it. I was going to say, it's not hard to learn. It does take time to learn about what are the benefits of it, what can it really do for you, how can you make use of it in your organization. But I think that is what you should be doing as a procurement person, because this is where you can elevate yourself far beyond so many, I would even say the majority of procurement people out there, who just simply don't view it as a priority or don't see it as a way to distinguish themselves from their peers. And that's if you're thinking about becoming a procurement leader in the future. I genuinely think that this is the way to think about it. Think tech first, digital first, become tech savvy with your procurement solutions, understand what's going on in the market, and I guarantee you'll be able to deliver so much value to your organization or wherever you end up. If you're looking for new solutions, new providers, new ways of doing things, that is where you're going to start adding value, as all this admin nonsense that procurement gets so bogged down doing disappears. Because guess what? Procurement tech. And then on the flip side, and I've discussed this in the contract management trends piece as well. The same with legal tech and contract lifecycle management tech. The same's happening everywhere. So they are my procurement trends for 2022. There were some others that I've been thinking about. Blockchain solutions. I thought maybe we could talk about talent, finding people, but I'm going to hold off for those trends and maybe give those two topics a little bit more attention throughout the year. I would love to hear what you have to say on this. So what is your number one trend for procurement in 2022? Let me know in the comments, the show notes, email me, I don't care. Just get those. I just want to hear from you. And I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.